Okay, I haven't done a video in a while, so I thought I'd just touch base as we begin the spring STAAR testing preparations. And what I want to talk about today is the high school level decision. And I wanted to talk about because we always get a lot of questions this time of year about, what's changed, what can we do for substitutions? And the answer is almost nothing has changed. There are no new substitutions. Some of the old ones are really not, available anymore. The SAT subject test has gone away, and pretty much at the point where anybody that's graduating has passed the last administration of that SAT subject test. But we're still operating in the same universe as when the original article, What About High School, was written, or the current updated and I think better article, but you have to pass STAR to graduate. Both of these articles available on textedrights.net. They're free, lots of links in them, also free. All of these things are basically as they have been. So there's really nothing new to pass on in terms of developments along those lines. And we can talk about, the actual decision and the various ways to graduate other than by taking the STAR assessment. And, first and foremost, I always recommend I always recommend parents to be open to the CVEP program, the Credits Verification and Evaluation Program, which is a private and accredited private school diploma that is received after completing all of your credits at your local public high school. There is a fee involved, it's $500, but the credits are transferred from your local high school to the private school. There's a very short course which is required. It can be completed by correspondence. And after it's completed, the child receives a fully accredited diploma. They receive transcripts, everything that any other graduate of an accredited high school would receive. And this is extremely important because it, basically separates the student from those that come from unaccredited schools. And so certain, assumptions are given regarding coursework that's been completed, and there will undoubtedly be fewer qualifying assessments or remedial requirements coming from a school with an accredited diploma. There are people who like to say there's no difference between accredited and unaccredited programs. That's absolutely untrue. There absolutely are differences in how they're received at the university level, and certainly by employers, maybe by the armed forces as well. It is a difference. And so the wonderful thing about the CVEP program is that it has absolutely no connection to STAR whatsoever. Is based solely on your credits, which is the way it should be. And you will graduate, and you will graduate and never have to take STAR. So that's, the first option that's out there. And I think every parent should be open to it. I understand a lot of them aren't. Some are put off by there being a price tag, which, I understand that. And I would tell you, if your child has no other way to graduate, $500 doesn't sound so terrible. But if it is, if it's fully beyond reach, talk to us. We'll see what we can't do to fundraise and help your kid, get the diploma that they've worked for and are entitled to based on their credits. Don't just go $500, throw up your hands like it's, the end of the world, because there are options that are out there. And I guarantee you that if your child is in that position, they can't graduate, but they have been fighting against STAR year after year, this group will fundraise the money for your kid to graduate. I have no doubt about that. So that's number one, is the CVEP program. The number two approach would be to replace the end of course assessments required with the approved substitute assessments according to the Commissioner of Education. Um, there is a link in the articles, particularly you have to pass STAAR to graduate. That's a joke, by the way. You have to pass STAAR to graduate article. It does have a link to the current chart of substitute assessments. It is up to date. Doesn't matter when I wrote the article, it is up to date. If it wasn't up to date, it wouldn't be there anymore. That chart will, give you the guideline that you can either look back at what's been done or you can plan for the future in terms of what your kid's going to do. I'll say this. Far and away, the best advice I have is start off in 8th or 9th grade trying to knock out these substitute assessments. Number one, it's going to give you some idea of whether your child is going to meet the levels required by the commissioner to substitute. If they're way off, you're going to have to sort of retool your plan. But if they're at or above, you're going to find out that, by the end of their freshman year, they will have knocked out enough to basically be eligible to graduate already. So, that's sort of the number one is start early and start with the PSAT assessments, because the PSAT 8 and 9 has standards of passage that are right on, if not easier than the requirements on STAAR in terms of percentile based to get to substitute in for the STAAR. And so if you start early, you're going to get assessment opportunities. Number one, you're going to get used to taking these specific type of assessments, and number two, you're going to have the opportunity to cross off end of course assessments at a very reasonable level. And so that may take a little bit of work, because first thing you have to do is you have to ask your school, do you offer PSAT 8, 9? Do you offer PSA 10? Do you offer the PSAT for the National Merit Scholarships? All of those, your school may or may not offer. And if they don't, you're going to have to try and find a school somewhere near you that offers them and will accept you as a visiting student. You may even have to be less than truthful and claim to be a homeschool student to get them to accept you. But if you do the work, the chances are that you can find a campus that's going to be administering the assessment and is also willing to accept visiting students to take that. Now, when I say early, I don't mean, middle of September for the October assessment. I'm talking about, calling maybe at the end of June, but certainly at the beginning of August to start to inquire into this. There are search functions on the College Board website to let you know what campuses are offering the PSAT 8, 9, which is open to 8th and 9th graders, as you can tell from the name. That is what I'd be working on from 8th grade forward with my kids, to try and get them into those assessments and get them the opportunity to take those. When you move past that, you've got things like the SAT, the ACT, you've got advanced placement, you've got international baccalaureate. All of these things can be reasonable assessments that can be substituted for the end of course examinations. U.S. history is the only one that doesn't have a national general aptitude or general assessment test that's used as a substitute. AP or history, U.S. history can only be substituted currently with the advanced placement or international baccalaureate assessment. That's just where we are on it. But the good news is that, that if you get everything except AP history or except U.S. history done, then you're thrown into the next option, which is the individual graduation committee. And the individual graduation committee lets the school by committee approve for graduation any student who has failed to perform satisfactorily on no more than 2 end of course examinations. Now, a couple of things here. Number one, understand that the substitute assessments do equal satisfactory performance. So you don't have to pass 3 stars. You can pass 3 substitute assessments and just leave 2 outstanding and be eligible for the end of course or the individual graduation committee. But number two, and this is very important, uh, you will have to attempt each assessment that you're trying to, basically pass by with the individual graduation committee. Uh, Very important. You do not have to even attempt the EOC in order to use the substitute assessment. By law, when you meet that substitute assessment score, you can substitute it. You do not have to first try and fail on an of course assessment. A lot of schools will tell you that you have to first attempt the EOC. That's absolutely false. You don't have to do that. But to get to individual graduation committee, you do have to attempt the EOC at least once. Now, the good news is, uh, you can attempt it by refusing it. All you need is that the state generates a score showing that you quote unquote participate. And if that score happens to be nothing because you looked at it and said, I'm not doing this, you've participated because the school has, if the school is going to report you for participation purposes, they can't very well deny you for participation or attempt purposes when it comes to the individual graduation committee. They don't like that because that requires them to be logical and consistent, but it's true. And I think the TA is going to back you up on that because otherwise we get into this whole stupid, question of, well, what effort is good enough? Well, the statute doesn't contemplate an effort test. It's just an attempt standard. And the TA has said, you can participate by refusal. And so you will have attempted by refusal. And that's fair enough. Graduating by IGC requires either a project or a portfolio. If you know you're going to be in an IGC for instance for U.S. history, please, save your coursework as you're going along and plan to ask for a portfolio. A lot of schools won't do that. They'll require a project because they're punitive, but whatever. Put yourself in the best position, save your work exemplars and try and fight for a portfolio because that's what you should be able to do. The statute says project or portfolio, but it is the IGC that gets to decide. So so ultimately you may end up having to do a project, but always go and trying to get the portfolio done if you've retained your work from the class. Don't just throw the stuff out. Keep it because it could be of good use down the road. Other means of graduating, you've got, for students that are under the special ed umbrella, and I'm not talking about 504 students, but specifically IDEA, special education, those students can graduate by decision of their ARD committee, their ARD committee. They can look at their progress versus their goals, their credits that are earned, and make the decision that the student is entitled to graduate. Nothing wrong with going that direction. Various people made the claim that ARD graduation requires you to have attempted STAAR at least once. Again, I don't see that in the law. I really don't. I don't know exactly where that comes from. But I would say this, given that the same rule applies, that refusal is an attempt. I don't know that I'd want to have that fight if I can just meet it by refusing the STAAR in person and saying, nope, not going to do it. All right, I've got a score sheet. Well, now you've got evidence of my participation in all 5 of the EOCs. ARD, let's vote to graduate this kid. Those are the basic approaches that are available to you. You've got your CVEP program, which requires you to do absolutely nothing but earn your credits and then transfer them over to the Oaks private school. 100% recommend. We are big backers of the program. They've been incredibly helpful when students have been in a difficult situation and needed to get diplomas, needed to graduate. The staff at the Oaks Private School has always been outstanding to work with. We've got an interview with Marilyn Bennett, who's the head of the school, on the Tex Ed Rights website. Take a look at it. She's a wonderful person. She's there to help. Um, if you decide not to go CVEP, though, uh, you work on substitute assessments. You can get all of them done and graduate. You can get 3 or 4 of them done and graduate via individual graduation committee. By the way, if you been compliant and taken and passed STAAR, and let's say you've got 3 passes and 2 failures or 2 still to go, you're eligible for the individual graduation committee so long as you have that attempt on each EOC. So, if you're just now coming to this and say, your kid has 3 EOCs passed, well, start opting out because you're already going to be eligible for the IGC committee graduation. Now, look, individual graduation committees can deny graduation. It happens. We've never heard of it happening specifically for an opt-out or because of an opt-out. But it could happen. In which case, again, you've got the CVEP as a backup. I mean, I guarantee you, if you went to an IGC and that group said, "We're not going to let you graduate because you were an opt-out parent, we're going to punish you," I guarantee you tell that story in the group, and by the end of the day, you're going to have your CVET fee paid through a GoFundMe, because we're just not going to put up with that kind of behavior from schools. So this is, I know it's a short review. I hope it's helpful to you. Please feel free to post questions. I'll try and answer them if I can. But I hope you all have a very successful opt-out season. And, don't believe the story that you can't graduate unless you pass STAAR, because you can. There's lots of options. And basically, it's all up to you at the end of the day, because, if you're willing to go CVEP, the school can't do anything about it at all. The others, pass all your substitute assessments. They can't do anything about that either. Get to the IGC, ARD graduation, yeah, there's some discretion there, but again, all we really hear out of those processes are successes. So I hope you'll be one of those successes. And most of all, I hope that you do what's right, which is to stand up and stop taking this assessment that's used to punish kids and districts and teachers all over the state, and primarily the weakest and most vulnerable of the learners. So stand up for them while you stand up for yourself. All right, y'all have a great day. Thanks. Bye.